I hope my screen is visible. Hello?
Yes,
Yeah,
Tarun,
yeah,
it is.
it's visible.
Yeah. Yeah, good. So, okay, I'll just start it from again. So, I hope you have a good idea about the agenda that we're going to talk about. That is, what are conversational bots? So, what are the various players in the conversational bot industry? What is Rasa? Why did we choose Rasa? What are the components, the chatbot terminology, and an overview of a use case where we will be building a bot to come up, with deal with simple queries like what to show your travel itineraries and to check if there are any flights available from one place to another place. So moving on to the bot industry, conversational bot industry has been recently been booming for the last 5 to 7 years. If you booked like it's a festive season right now, and people keep booking a lot of things on Amazon. And let's say we are not able to, you don't like the product, and now in these days, previously you could just directly call up the customer care and tell that, okay, I don't like the product due to so and so reason. But now things have evolved to a place where you need to talk it first. Make sure you register the thing in the app, where the Amazon's conversational bot asks you a couple of questions like, what is the problem, what has happened, and then if the Amazon bot is able to answer to the solution, then you are not the necessary of you taking a call to the customer care executive is reduced. So what the industry is moving towards is to make sure they're catering to the right set of customers through the right set of product, and making sure that to increase the efficiency of people by relying a bit an amount of work on the bots. So that's what is going on currently in the industry. So if you ask me a question like, what are the two main components that you look in a bot while you create it, I would say that the first important component is for the bot to understand what the person is looking for. It's really important. And the next thing is what the person has meant. So over here, what we are referring to is the NLP component and the NLU component. NLP is nothing but like NLP is like a whole big subject which comes under the subset of AI, like every one of us are aware, where NLP looks for what is being said. So if it's like I'm looking for a Chinese cuisine, it's like an NLP statement. It's a general statement. What would NLP do? Probably it would, bring it or make it into word tokens based. And then if you're training it on something, it will try to understand what is it about. But what the NLU component tries to understand is, I'm looking for a Chinese restaurant. So it will understand our intent. We are looking for a Chinese restaurant. We are looking for a restaurant. And what is the cuisine that you're looking for? It's Chinese. So this is something what the NLU component adds to your conversational bot, and the NLU component is one of the most important part. So let's move forward and look at who are the key players in the bot industry. Oops, my slides got jumped. Okay, yeah. So I'll just come back to that as well. So currently, these are the key players in the bot industry, and this is an F1 score that they trained on three different corpuses, and they looked at how the reviewers. You can see that IBM Watson ranks number one, which is available as a service on the cloud, and followed by which we have Dialogflow, Rasa, and Lois. Lois is Microsoft Azure's bot service that is available, and Snips, Rasa, Recast, all of these have a facility where you can also train it on voice commands, or you can train it on text. So those things are available. I hope that gives you a good understanding about the various things that are going on in the industry and the kind of players that are available. So moving on forward, so what is the current level of bots that we are dealing with? So we have level one bots, that is a notification bot. So what could be a notification bot? So prior to the pandemic, most of us were really travel enthusiasts, right? Like if you booked a ticket on Make My Trip, or any leading travel agency, you would get a notification on your WhatsApp, or if you're using the Exigo app, that your flight is at this time. So it just pushes you a notification about when is the flight, or what time is the flight. Or we moved from that to a level 2 bot, that is an FAQ bot. So there are some frequently asked questions regarding any product and all. So what they did was they were able to embed all those questions into a bot, and in a way that there is not much of a dialogue management done, or like a continuous dialogue flow that goes on, but it's like you ask a question that is relevant to the corpus and gives an answer. And the next one we're talking about is the contextual assistance, where we're trying to bring the dialogue management component into the chatbot that we're preparing or that we're using. And that is what today's session will be about. And next thing is personal assistance is nothing but based on your flavor, your Google always keeps on suggesting you a number of things, like let it be videos and all. So what if an assistant, based on the things you use and all, he can suggest you like this is the restaurants that are good, these are the things that are good and all. But rebuilding those things is a very tough job at this current point, because things like level 4, level 5 actually need a lot of plumbing work to be done. I'll come and explain what is plumbing as well. And they require a lot of different training data, and they're not yet modularized. So we'll also talk about what is being modularized. And level 5 autonomous organizational assistance are nothing but let's say you have a company where all your sales is done. Once a sale is done, the sale is passed on to another accounting bot, which says that okay, the sale is done to so and so, and this is the amount of sale, and it is again passed to an audit bot, which takes care of all the audits, like what the sales are done and all. So the usual activities that go on in an industry will be done with minimum human interaction. So that is what is level 5 bots, and I think that in next 5 to 10 years, that is where we'll be heading towards to. So I've spoke about two topics, like one is modularization. So modularization is nothing but how is it different from using a Python developed Rasa, Python developed script for which you create a chatbot, and using Rasa? What is the core difference? So the core difference lies in whether you want to applications in industry would not be deployed in your terminal or in Jupyter notebooks. You need to make sure they're deployed, and you are able to integrate them with your product. That, let it be a website, or let it be on your Slack, let it be on your WebEx Teams, or on Microsoft Teams, or anywhere. You need to integrate them, and this process of integration actually requires a lot of plumbing to be done. So what Rasa or any other third-party provider gives us is they give us a leverage on this plumbing, and they already have some predefined packages that are available, or frameworks that are already built for us about how to use, how to go with the process. So to some extent, we are actually reducing the amount of complexity in building a chatbot by relying on the third-party assistants. So that's about this, and let's dive into Rasa. Oops, I think my slides are okay. Yeah. So what is the basic architecture of a chat service? So you have a messaging platform that can be your Slack, or your website having, or your Facebook chat also now has supports a bot. Telegram also supports a bot. That's your messaging platform. That is your UI. That's been taken care of by the Telegram, and you'll just have to tie your application to that. So your chatbot service or code is what you write. That is your Rasa. That is that you would be developing about how things go on, and what are the important key characteristics to remember. Knowledge base is nothing but like a database, or a graph database, or a knowledge graph, where from which it can extract the entities, or come up with answers. So if I'm firing a query like what are the specifications of product 7892, the query will go through a database and we'll be getting the answers. But for today's session, it is a very simple session. We won't be tying up any databases and all. It is a general session about how Rasa goes on, and it's a very basic tutorial about how to use Rasa's chat framework. So without any much delay, I any questions so far? Okay, I'll take that as a yes, and I'll go forward. Cool. So what is Rasa? So Rasa is an open source machine learning framework that is made for developers to build conversational AI, which we've been talking about for so far. So what are the components of Rasa? You have Rasa NLU, Rasa Core, and Rasa Dialog Engine. And apart from that, you also have Rasa X, which is used for your creating a server-based development environment. So what is so Rasa NLU is nothing but the hands or the legs of your chatbot. So it tries to extract entities and intents from the statement that you made, and it tries to establish a relation with that. What the core does is it tries to, based on the relation that you have made there, it will try to understand how relevant it is to the next conversation that will be taking place. So this is what is being done. So, and Rasa X is a way, it is like an entire end-to-end product, and it is not for open source. It is provided on servers, and it collects the conversation between users. And so after a point, after you make a chatbot, you'll have to understand what kind of queries it's not able to answer properly, so that you can train it better. And incremental training actually helps in improving the efficiency of the chatbot. So it also ensures new assistant pass tests using CI/CD. So CI/CD is continuous integration and continuous deployment, in which we use software like Jenkins, Ansible, where we automate the entire testing process. So that is being done for us through Rasa X. And moving forward, the Rasa core is like the brain or the dialogue engine of Rasa. So how I was talking. So what it does is, based on the type of conversation we are having, it tries to come up with an appropriate reply. So how does it do it is based on a Rasa pipeline that we actually mention in our script. So that is about the things. Now let's talk about intents and entities, which is from the part of Rasa NLU. Like I mentioned earlier, let's say I'm looking for a Mexican restaurant in the center of town. So let's say this is my statement to the Rasa bot. So what will the bot initially try to, what should the bot try to understand? So what are we giving over here? We are giving, it has to understand the intents and entities. So what is my intent? I'm looking for a restaurant. So it is probably the intent is search for a restaurant. But what are some entities which will help try to understand it? So over here, the Mexican restaurant which we are talking about is like in cuisine. So this will tell that, okay, the cuisine is Mexican. So where is he looking? Center of the town. Probably earlier question would be the Rasa bot also already has an idea that, this person is already in a particular place. And based on that, it can give you some recommendations. So that is about entities and intents. So let's just, move to the terminal where so what I suggest people is that whenever we're working on an entirely new framework, it is better that we use a virtual environment where in which we can install that entire framework, because Rasa as a framework has different dependencies when compared to your normal pandas and NumPy libraries that go around, and it might mess up your development environment. So always when you're working with an entirely new framework like Rasa and all, it is suggested that you create an uh, virtual environment, so that you can understand, so that it doesn't mess your development environment. And in the future, probably when you're dockerizing it as well, it is very beneficial. If you're running it on Docker, that is the best thing you can do. All right, now let's say Rasa init. Let me just go to desktop, make a directory. Okay, this already exists. So demo one, I can do a cd to my demo one. Okay. Now simple, after you install your Rasa, like pip3 install Rasa, you can just do Rasa init. It usually takes some time for things to pop up and process. In the meantime, I can just so this is something that you get after you run that particular command. You get an oh great. It's asking me for a directory. So it is training me a model. It has a particular set of framework that is present. So you can see that it is having story blocks, trackers, and all getting created. Yeah, I don't have CUDA, so don't worry because I don't have an NVIDIA graphic card. Once you have an NVIDIA graphic card, then you can have CUDA and all installed on them. That is mostly for your deep learning framework to kick off. You'll be using TensorFlow when you want to use a different embeddings while moving on forward. So you can see that it has loaded you some training data. It has loaded you already some pre-trained models, and it has found that these are the intents that are available in the training data which we are getting. And Rasa also has a couple of classifiers at the endpoint to classify your this thing. And currently we are using that is nothing but dual intent and entity transformers. So it is based on the concept of transformers. Apart from that, you also have SQL and intent classification and all. So do I want to speak to the trained assistant? Yes. So this is a mood bot by Rasa. So based on your mood, it will give you some uh, like, yeah, I'll show you. That's better. I'm like, hi, like, hey, how are you? I feel I'm sad. So it sends you an image of an tiger. I'll just show that to you as well. So it's just a photo of a tiger puppy that will make your day. And then let's say no. So you see that after I say no, it's like bye. And then I'm saying hi, I'm happy. Here's something to cheer up. So it's if this chatbot doesn't have any dialogue management present in it, so that's very clearly seen, right? So how do we deal with this problem? So we'll be using the same background and we'll be creating all our we'll be using this the same training data and we'll try to improvise over it. So let me just kill my server and let's look at what are the various things that we have currently. So you got actions.by, config.yaml, credentials.yml, data, domain, endpoints, too much to understand. So let's go into everything and dig deep. So if I was a person, my first question would be what is there in data? So in data, we have what is nlu.md and stories. Now let's look at what is nlu.md. So it has intents. So probably for greeting, it's like, hey, hi, good morning, good evening, hey there. So, and for intent, it already, for intent goodbye, it has like bye, goodbye, see you around, see you later. And for intent affirm, so probably it's like, how are you? Is your day bad? Means probably we'll be saying yes or something like that, maybe. Indeed. So this is how the training data is fetched, is sent to Rasa. So it's a YAML file. So based on the YAML file, you send your training data. Now let me look at what are stories. So these are stories, and we'll come back to that. And what do I have more? So next thing I would like to show you is your config.yaml file. So this is the configuration that Rasa will be following for extra. So it's more of like a pipeline. So white space tokenizer. What is a white space tokenizer? If it's like Google is a very good company. So you have spaces, and the spaces get, and if you're doing dot split based on space, that's a white space tokenizer. Regex Featurizer is nothing but, let's say, you have a statement like the postal code is 13821, and wherever, and in the place you, in the country that you stay, all the postal codes are of 5 digits. Then you can write a simple regex expression, which is like zero, like plural bracket 0 to 9, and if the number of numbers are 5, it will extract that particular value. And the next thing is a lexical syntactic featurizer. It tries to understand the lexical relationships that are going around. And count vectorizer is nothing but how many times a particular word is being repeated. So it's more of like a configuration file for you, or this thing for you to understand what are the various things that are going on in your particular this thing, in your particular, in the way that you do your chatbot. It's more of like an architectural view. So you can always change this based on your requirement. You have two main types of pipelines that are available. We'll be talking about them in some time. And let me look at, is there anything left I want to show you at this point of time? Nope. No. So how to create your training data? So like I told to you earlier, it's basically a YAML file. So you can, if you can look at your training data again, you can see that for every time there's an intent, you're using a double hashtag and there is a space, and then you have your intent and what it mentions. And again, you have a small hyphen space. These spaces are very important as it helps Rasa to parse things properly. So this is how you do your training data. So how do you fetch your training data in the first place? So let's say I'm working on something like a product or a domain specific model. In that case, probably I need questions from domain experts. Like if you're making a chatbot for any, a wireless company, like let's say wireless accessory company like TP-Link or all, you have to understand what their product is, what kind of questions people would ask them, what are the various specifications of a product that are important to highlight as a feature of the product. That is one way to look at it. When you don't have an access to domain expert, the next thing would be to take the most commonly searched questions. uh, like what are the most commonly searched for search questions for a product. You can actually make a list of those questions, fetch them out, and you can create your primary model like version 1.1 based on those questions. If both of them are failing, what do? We don't have any questions, so what do we do? So you create a normal version of your Rasa chatbot, like a very minimal version with the things that you know, and you send it to production. Next, what you do is you always make a note of all the questions it is not being able to answer in a separate log file, so that later you can open up this log file. You can, after opening up this log file, you can search for what are the questions that were most asked, and you can get answers for those questions. That is one way to look at it. And I made some training data over here for you to understand. So in the same NLU training data file, you can also add something called as a synonym. So always it is not sure that I'll search for a restaurant, right? I can also ask what is the best food serving place around, so that it should understand that the synonym of restaurant is a food serving place. And so the key, like I mentioned in the earlier in the during the start of the presentation, the key important component is the name entity recognition model. And for Rasa, by default, we have Spacey. Spacey does name entity recognition for people, locations, and for several other things. It's also really interesting and a good project if you would like to have a look. And you can also train, if you're doing something for product specific, you'll have to train your own name entity recognition model. So if you can see over here, what is the nearest Mexican restaurant? So here, Mexican is a cuisine, so that I'm highlighting over here. So the model can understand, okay, this is an entity of the statement. And yep. So regex zip code. Yeah, this is about the regex featurizer which we were talking about. It's normally like, you can extract all the relevant numbers, but again, it not necessarily means that every 5-digit number is supposed to be a zip code, right? So that is where a rule-based model fails when you're actually using machine learning. And other one is a lookup menu. So you actually have load a text file with a list of all the menu items so that you can understand I'd like to have beef momos and Szechuan noodles. So that in menu.txt, which has a lookup about what Szechuan noodles is and momos is. So in that way, you are actually reducing an effort on your training data by attaching it to a textual script. So moving on forward, what are the various pipelines? We've been talking a lot about pipelines since they are the most important architectural features that are there in ASA. So first one is your pre-trained embeddings spacey model, and there is supervised embeddings model. Pre-trained embeddings, it's the world itself says that you already have it, pre-trained on a particular set of a corpus, or it is already pre-trained on Wikipedia corpus and all. So it's just that you'll require minimum effort to train the model because it's already trained, and even with smaller data, you'll get a very good boost. And since it's already trained, training will also take a little bit less time when compared to the original model, how it is done. So, what are the main disadvantages in this particular thing is that, again, you can't come up with product based models from this. If you're trying to do a product based, again, you'll have to go to scratch and start it from there. So, language is a really big issue because these days, currently, due to the speed of development, you also have, a lot of Chinese corpuses and a lot of Chinese people working on Chinese NLP as well. But initially, it was only available for English, and data was mostly huge amounts of data were only available for English. So that is being solved right now. And Spacey also has language models for name entity recognition as well, which you can use. So how does this pre-trained embeddings work? So that's what happens, once you use a pre-trained embeddings model is that your Spacey actually extracts the entities. After extracting the entities, let's say you're using word embeddings from fast text and there is already a Glow or O2 that are available. What it does is it takes an average of all those word embeddings that are available, and then it performs a grid search on it to find the best parameter for your SVM to run to come up with a classification report to tell that what kind of entity or intent that we're looking forward to. So that is how a pre-trained model works. Any questions? Okay. So next one is the supervised embeddings model. So in supervised embedding model, again, you train everything from scratch. You come up with your own model, and you can come up with, again, the only drawback with a supervised embedding model is that you need to get your training data right, and of course it will take a lot of time to train, and it will obviously require a much more amount of data for providing better performance and all. And this particular model is, you can make it on any language as long as you have the data again. And since mostly pre-trained embedding spacing models, they are not usually designed to handle multiple intents. So what could multiple intents be is, I'm looking for a Chinese restaurant which serves the best Szechuan fried rice. So you're here looking for a Chinese restaurant, and you're also looking for the one which provides a good food and all. So in that case, there is a chance that your pre-trained embedding models don't actually make it well, but your supervised embedding models can actually work out to be really well. So how do you know which model is better? I think if I'll be able to zoom it, you'll be able to understand. I can, yeah. Okay. So it's a very small diagram. So first you see that if there are any pre-trained word embeddings that are available for your bot language. If there is no, then yeah, you should go for supervised embeddings using TensorFlow embeddings. So over here, the TensorFlow part actually comes in. If yes, if there are already pre-trained word embeddings available, you'll see if it is supported by your multiple intents or not. Oops. Yeah. And if it's supporting multiple intents, you can see that if it's having domain specific models, and yes, if you're having a lot of training data, then yes, you'll be going for supervised embeddings. But let's say you don't want to have multiple intents, and you don't even have any specific domain specific terms that are to be done, and the number of training data is less, you go for the sklearn part. Okay, now I'll just show you my split of the data that I've done. So yeah. Okay, so this is the same moodbot training data, but what I did is I've added some extra intents like find itineraries. So get me my bookings, show me my bookings, find my upcoming trips, fetch my upcoming trips. So I've also added some training data for it to understand what I'll be looking for. So the technically what I want is I want to get what are the flights from Bangalore to Mumbai, or what are the flights from Bangalore to Chennai, or something like that. If I'm asking it a question like that, it will be able to understand. So my model currently doesn't have any spacey model for it to understand the entities. So if you're adding spacey, it will be able to understand that. Since that is not there, I'm also giving extra parts like this is the source, this is the destination for it to understand better, and it can also give me a training data. So next thing I would like to show you is stories.md. I just want to do a comparison over here so that you can understand better. So stories.md is nothing but we are giving uh, the bot a story, like a storyline to follow. Okay, if this then this, if this then this. It's not like a rule based model, but based on your answers it will try to fetch the right kind of questions for it to answer your queries better. So if you can see that for the mood bot, first it used to greet us whenever we say hi, it says hi, and if our mood is happy, it is telling bye. But like whenever the mood is unhappy, it is trying to send us an image, and after sending an image it is telling us, okay, did that make you smile? I'm like yes, then it's like bye. So it follows a particular sequence so that we are able to go in a particular way. So in my particular this thing also, I have created my own story points. All of this are from what I thought. So let's say one story point is hi. I'll be like, probably I'm looking for flights from Bangalore to Mumbai. It will show me some flights. Then it is like, thanks. And then I'm like, okay, bye. The other one is, again, I might say, hi, I'm looking for flights from so and so. It's like, thanks. And other welcome, bye. So in this way, I've created some story points. So the story points are really important because, and the way you write them, in case of double commas, if I'm using just and single inverted comma, it will give me a parsing error. Because Spacey has very strict syntax rules, and you have to make sure that all the things are in the same way. So this is about the different storylines that we can actually follow while making our bot. And next I'd like to show you is config. Yes, you have one. So the only Python code that we'll be writing will be in actions.py. Apart from that, anywhere we won't be using any Python code while using Rasa. So that is one of the most advantage with Rasa, is that you can simply by machine learning and with minimal Python coding, you're able to create a bot that is able to give you proper answers. So models is nothing but all my trained models will be going into this models folder. And let me show you what is endpoints.yaml. So endpoints is nothing but what are the endpoints you want your model should supposed to use. But for me, it is localhost 5005 webhook. So this is the one I've kept. But if you're using a server, it's so Rasa actually comes up for you with an entire pipeline. So it's just that you'll have to do the most minimal editings and come up with your own chatbot, and you can keep it in your GitHub or anywhere, like a portfolio. It also has thing Redis available. So Redis is an in-memory memory caching tool. So it is mostly used for queuing the messages, like queuing the messages and giving the right answers based on queuing. So it is when you go into production, having a Redis database is really helpful. So, and the next I would like to show you is domain. What is your domain file? So your domain file is a small snapshot to what are all the things that your chatbot is supposed to do. So over here, it has a list of entities like greet, goodbye, affirm, deny, what are mood grades, mood unhappy, bot challenge, search flights, search trains, find itineraries, and all. And then for entities, you have source, destination. So all of this are there. So what I'd like to do now is let me open my view. So I can simply do a Rasa. Oops, my virtual environment is not active over here. I can do a Rasa train. Okay. Okay, my Rasa model is done. So Rasa shell NLU loads your recently trained model. Like let's say hi. So as I told hi, you can see that the bot is telling that okay, this is an intent greet, and it has a particular confidence interval. So this is coming through your SVM classifier. Now I'm like so it is able to tell that okay, this is 99.9% search files intent. So in this way, every time you come up with a sentence, Rasa will try to understand what is the intent, what goes on through the process and all. So I'll show you the entire working. of the chatbot as well. So before that, I want to show you, yeah, the actions file. So let me first show you for the mood bot so that I understand better. I know looking at a lot of code or gives you a bit of discomfort to everyone. So everything, like I mentioned earlier, is given to us. Rasa actually has it. So you can see that everything is commented. So this action.hello world is actually, and yeah, I forgot to tell you one of the most important part. So whatever names that you're giving, like let me open data. So this intent, mood, unhappy. So make sure that whatever names that you're giving here are the same ones that are being reciprocated everywhere. So you can see greet, mode unhappy, because if not it will come up with an error, and initially you'll not understand that what causing the error, even after you're trying even after you're trying to understand that everything went well, what caused the error. Because initially when I used to develop, most of the time I used to get the errors with this particular quotations. Where is that? Okay, it's not this side of the chat. Yeah. Initially, when I first used to develop chatbots for a client, everything was right, but this particular source I used to use single commas, and I used to get an error back then. Rasa wouldn't tell that this is because of double quotations, but now it does, and that's a relief. So make sure that you're always following the particular syntax and all. So now let me show you. Okay, cd domain. Sorry. Yeah. So again, in your domain.yaml file, so over here you can see that we did not mention actions anywhere. So this is again a standardized bot, but when you want to come up with DB using a database to retrieve all your data, you will have to write your own Python script which actually communicates with the data. So that's why we don't have actions over here. But if you can look at my domain.yaml file, I already have actions like utter greet, utter welcome, utter goodbye. So all these actions I've already have, and some of them, so some things are predefined. So every time you tell hey, it should tell like hey, what's up. You can also write like hey, how are you, hey. So you can have all the couple of choices, and Rasa will randomly choose something and it will give it to the user. But coming to the actions, I'll show you the Python file that's been written. So this is the Python file that we have. So what we are basically trying to do is, whenever there's a sentence, from the sentence we are trying to get the intent, and from the intent we are trying to get what are the entities. So initially so for my travel bot, I need what is source and what is destination. So using that, I have removed the entities. If it is source, it will take it as source. If it's destination, it will take the destination, and it will tell you what are the things that are available. So for now, we have like flight A and flight B for everything we query. But what you can do when we are creating it for an enterprise level, you can tie it up to a database. So based on the entities, we can use you can query it to the database, like or you can search it from the database. So for each action that we have, we'll have to write an entire function like this. So for the same way, I have an action for find trains, I have an action for find itineraries. So this is how you're supposed to write your actions file. Okay, now let me just try to, where am I? Okay, I'm in document test one. I can do a Rasa run actions. Okay, my endpoint is ready now. Okay, my Rasa server is also up and running. Okay, let's open a new tabs. Oops, sorry.
Yeah, we could make it as a.
Would be a viable product?
Hello? Hello. Okay, cool. So let me train my NLU model for once. Okay, it also shows you what are the intents that it founds, number of intents, and how many distinct intents are there. Oops, this is not supposed to come. What is wrong? Where did I do a mistake? Model got trained. There is some mistake. What is that? Sorry for that. Let me just see if the shell is working or not. Okay, hi. Okay, the shell is working fine. Our shell is working. Okay, what is the error that I'm getting? Type has property cast using. Um, okay. So, Okay, so my server is up and running, and I'm able to see. I also got a message, hello from Rasa, but there is reason. I think there is some kind of problem. I'm not able to show you the CMD interface. Like over the CMD, I can actually talk to my agent. What has happened? Let me try to run it in an interactive mode. Config.yaml file doesn't exist. Okay, actually, I think there is some problem. Uh, oops, sorry. So my training is again completed. The model is saved. Okay, it is because already 5005 is in use. So yeah, actually, I wanted to show you in an interactive way where if I'm typing hi in the CMD, like how we type for Moodbot, in the same way it is supposed to work like while I was testing, but I'm not able to figure out what's going on currently. So that's it from today's session. If you have any questions, you can ask me right now. So you can actually use Slack or any other channels where you can actually connect your this thing to an external server. So for that, what you'll have to do is you'll have to create first an endpoint. So so this, but once you have created this endpoint, again, since for any service for your for you to use this chatbot as a service everywhere, it should be having a static HTTP or HTTPS IP, for which you can use something called as an ngork. So if I'm HTTP 5005, so once I do that, I have an HTTP or HTTPS request that is available. So it's nothing but port forwarding is being done over here from localhost to this particular thing, and that you can actually use it in your Slack. And apart from that, uh, you have a couple of Slack tokens. So yeah, So you have a Slack token which you can give it over here and your Slack channel ID, and then you'll have to configure Slack, and integrating it with Slack is an entirely different story. So yeah, that's it for today's session. Any questions? Okay, I got a question, I guess. Where can we find pre-trained models for Indian language? Okay. Yeah, Akash, first your question. How to work in Windows? Actually, Akash, for Windows, you can use something like Visual Studio is actually a very good interface to work on Windows as well, because you can always have a terminal running in the bottom, and if you are working on Windows, I suggest you to use Visual Studio as a software. Okay, Kishore is asking where can we find pre-trained models for Indian languages? There is actually a pre-trained. There are some people who are working on pre-trained models for Tamil and several other things. Just drop me a mail ID. I have a GitHub repo link. I'll just forward it to you. Suppose we need a bot to save two values from user, namely min value and max value. I tried doing it with slots, but the bot couldn't identify which number is minimum and which number is maximum. How to correct this intent recognition? So what you can do is once you have identified the let's just identify both the numbers and compare both the numbers. Once you do the comparison, you get the variables, and those variables, I think you can forward it, Gautam. How do we develop the database needed for chatbot development? Okay, so I can give you a personal experience answer over here. So I was working for a MNC client where we developed a graph database which use RDF triples. It uses subject object predicate format, and we use Sparkle as a query language. So how it does is, for any natural language query, there is an extension called as Parrot which converts your natural language query into an RTFS format. So that particular RDFS format we do. But if you want to attach a database, you can always take the endpoint of the database. Like if you're hosting it on the cloud, you'll have an endpoint. You can take that endpoint, and you can actually fix it in your endpoints.yaml from where it can actually do. So if you can go here, Redis over here is actually a database. So in the same way, you can look at how you can do it for MySQL or PostgreSQL or a MongoDB. Uh, any more questions? I have print. Okay, Gautam is telling me that I have print training examples, but still the bot is getting confused between minimum and maximum. Try to increase the training examples and see, Gautam. So again, natural again. It comes to boils down to the point of natural language understanding. Or what you can do is, like I mentioned earlier, you can extract those numbers into two variables, compare those variables, and then based on the comparison you can it can itself say, right, if a is less than b, then a is minimum. So if a is minimum, that means that b is maximum, right? Just try to write this small code arrangement and see if it's working out or not. Do we need to implement C Python for performance? Okay, that's a really advanced question. Performance in the sense, then can you be much more specific, Akash? So what performance are you looking for over here? So is it the speed you're talking about, or what is that you're looking for? If it is for the speed, then you don't need to implement anything Rasa itself while coming to compilation. No, not required. My personal experience I've been using so far is that Rasa actually trains pretty fast. And still, if you want to anyways improve the performance, when you are using Google Colab or anything, you always have TPUs available. So you can just use a single line in Colab. If you can drop me a mail ID, I can email you what is that line that you're supposed to use in Colab or in Kaggle to use a TPU which can process faster. But again, if you're using your local system, and if you're having NVIDIA graphic card, then you can have CUDA over it, and then you can use TensorFlow GPU using the TensorFlow GPU, parallel processing is done, and that also improves your speed. But if you don't have either of them and you're okay to use a bit of money, then I would suggest you to go to cloud. That is one good way to do the fast processing. Could you tell me how to save data using MongoDB? Okay, so saving data using MongoDB is not so any model that you train, Gautam, in this thing. So if you're training a normal Python file, it is stored in the format of a pickle. What you can do is as soon as the pickle format is being done, you can run another query where it searches for any new files that are there in the directory. Once it finds a new directory, you can just push it to the MongoDB database. That is one way to do it. But why would you want to save your model in MongoDB? Oh, user data. So you want to actually use a MongoDB, is it? So that means that you use MongoDB when you're dealing with a lot of unstructured data. So you can normally write a script that can push all the data into MongoDB. For that also, you'll just have to connect your for SQL. There is pSQL in Python, or when you're working with Jupyter notebooks, you can use magic commands like percentage SQL, where you can just directly type your SQL query. Where for anything to happen, first you need to connect your MongoDB database. Once you connect your MongoDB database, you can normally write the queries, and you can write a script that pushes data automatically. So you can automate it in such a way that the script run once in every morning. Let's say there's a folder in which every day new data gets dumped in. At the end of the day, it will delete all the data. Next day morning, new data is coming. It will just take the data and it will push it into your database. I hope that solves your question, Gautam. Can you share the PDF of what, Akash? What PDF would you like to have?
Okay, so guys, I think you guys had a good session. So I think so many people are having some questions. What we would like to do is you can send across your queries through email to us, okay? And we will have a discussion with the instructor, and Tarun would definitely come back helping you all. So we would make that happen, okay? So we will also be sharing the insights of this particular webinar session that is being done. So, any other questions to Tarun? Anybody else? Or if at all you guys have, please mail us the same. We will make sure Tarun is getting noticed. Yeah. So I've just pinged you the link of feedback form. Okay. So that would definitely help us in getting you guys a better session in upcoming webinars. So please do fill it and send it back. So thank you all. Tarun, anything else to be presented from your end?
No, Nancy.
Okay, so thanks all for joining, guys. We will get you notified of our upcoming webinar sessions. Okay, thank you so much.